You know, my feelings about Stephen Miller has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that, first of all, I think he is an absolute threat to people who are part of the Jewish community because he is such a rancid little fucker. And I mention his affiliation with the Jewish religion just about every time I talk about him. I call him a Nazi Jew, to the same degree that I refer to these Christian terrorists as Christian terrorists or Christian Nazis. And the reason I do that is because I think it is absolutely imperative that we understand where this kind of hatred is coming from. Judaism is not about hatred. You know, you can go back to the ancient teachings of the Hebrews and Moses and the slaughter in once they crossed the River Jordan. Okay, that's fine. The history that goes back 5,000-6,000 years into the Stone Age, all right, or whatever age it was. I'm talking about modern Judaism is not a violent philosophy. Modern Christianity, as taught by the mythical Jesus of Nazareth, is not a violent philosophy. But there are certain Jews, and Netanyahu is one, Stephen Miller is another, who have so corrupted and shredded their religion that it has to be mentioned. To me, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as Christians are concerned, there are so many Christians who have taken that mythology, just like Roman or Greek mythology. They've taken this mythology about the rabbi from Nazareth, who may or may not have lived, may or may not have been married to Mary Magdalene, may or may not have had children, yada, 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 you know, whatever. But these Christian terrorists have taken the myths of Jesus, of being a peacemaker and someone who is trying to teach people to love their neighbor, and they've completely destroyed it and turned it into an evil fucking cult. That's the kind of Christianity that these demons in the House and the Senate who claim to be Christians, that's what they're putting out. So yes, I will mention the religion of these bastards. Well, this creepy chrome dome Nazi Jew, Stephen Miller, have you noticed something? He's starting to demand some FaceTime on television because, well, he feels secure enough, I would imagine, to now come out of the little dark spiderwebby shadows where he has been crouching, except when he scuttles out and whispers shit into Trump's ear. But he wants some TV time now, and he's starting to demand that. He shared a screaming press briefing yesterday with the Christian terrorist and nutcase, Levitt, you know, little blonde floofy hair. Jesus Christ. But Stephen Miller, he, you know, to me with those hooded eyes, Jesus Christ, that's scary in itself. But he's like a poisonous caterpillar that went into a cocoon a couple of years ago, and now he's emerged, not as a butterfly, but as some kind of a creepy fanged version of a hand puppet, maybe a Muppet of some sort, with those hooded eyes like a cobra. And there he is. And he is one of the leading proponents of the war against cancerous woke culture. God damn these people. And I mean, Trump has this ability, or his advisors, to pick some of the most brutal, scary-looking fuckers. I mean, look at Ketchup Patel. If that guy doesn't look like he's out of a 1950s horror flick, I don't know who does. And Tom Homan, this white devil that heads ICE, he looks like something out of a Nazi propaganda film, right? And the little poofy lips, you know, the head of Homeland Security, Christie, who wants to be a porn star. At least that's the impression I get when she poses with her little pouty, puffy lips and her little vagina pants on. You know, I mean, where the fuck do these people come from? Oh, my God. Anyway, yesterday, the toilet rat And operating through his sick mouthpiece, Stephen Miller, they tried to spotlight their efforts so far to remake the federal government and destroy the Constitution with a pointed and at times chilling focus on cultural issues. Yeah. Now, the little Nazi Jew, who is one of the chief architects of the toilet rat second term, that's why he wants out of the corner where he's been crouching now, Stephen Miller does, because he is one of the designers of this. He had his audition during the first Trump administration when he came up with the Nazi idea of taking children away from their parents and putting them in cages. Now, God damn it, if that is not right out of the Auschwitz playbook, right up to and so far not including the execution of these children, then nothing is. This came out of Stephen Miller, and he'll gladly take credit for it. To take children away from their parents, traumatize the fuck out of everybody. But Stephen Miller, being the little cockroach that he is, he had no problem with that, none at all. So Miller, in this press briefing yesterday with Caroline Leavitt, highlighted with his filthy mouth this months-long, ever since the toilet rat's been in office, to dismantle policies on diversity and equity and inclusion and transgender issues and medical treatments, all of it. And in his screaming little cockroachy rhetoric yesterday, he cast Trump as a cultural warrior taking on entrenched interest and political correctness. Oh, hell yes. Jesus Christ, this guy. So the Washington Post reported that the Nazi Jew's 35-minute appearance with little Miss Leavitt was the latest and the most pronounced in a burst of activity during a week-long push to promote the toilet rat's first 100 days in office, as if this was some kind of mark of the excellence of this Nazi fucker, Donald Trump. And I mean, what he did in the first 100 days doesn't need a little Nazi worm like Stephen Miller to point it out. And like the other events of the week, it was what he did yesterday was a commentary on the dim economic news. He focused instead on the social issues that helped the toilet rat get elected, because there's 77 million people in this country who are dumber than a fucking brick or else are willingly stupid about what was going to happen if he was elected again. But also what the little Nazi Jew focused on was all the efforts against transgender politics and diversity programs and immigration, all of it. Just like the Nazis did in Germany when Hitler was assuming power. Go after the weakest, the least represented in the society, destroy them first. Build your reputation on your ferocity when you go after handicapped people, Jews, the Roma, some weak-kneed Christians, the homosexuals. Go after them first. Oh, my God. So what the little Nazi Jew said yesterday, it really focused on how much of an emphasis the toilet rat is putting on fighting culture wars. I mean, what has he done for the country other than this, other than his 150 executive orders or whatever, and his kind of cavalier attitude about the alcoholic who runs the Defense Department bombing the shit out of Yemen? I mean, what else has he done? Oh, that's right. He plays a lot of golf. God damn. Anyway, he focuses a lot on what he thinks are the central reasons he got the presidency again. And if you remember, the toilet rat took office in January. He had a huge initial focus against transgender politics and diversity programs, which is right. I mean, it wasn't so long ago that people in media like me were being told, don't use the Hitlerian comparison. The Nazis and Hitler were unique in the destruction, in the horror that they perpetrated. And I agree with that. But by the same token, if it walks like a duck and shits like a duck and quacks like a duck and looks like a duck, it probably is a duck. And that's Trump, where it concerns Nazi ideology and the people who work with him. So now he's come back to those issues that were made so popular by Adolf Hitler again and again in his attempt, because he understands the weakness of the American collective consciousness and how easily it can be manipulated. He comes back to these issues again and again, because that's how he changes the subject from less popular news about what a fuck-up he really is. And this past week was no different, because the toilet rat tried to deflect attention from all the headlines coming from people who understand. He doesn't understand shit except how to play people against each other. But from headlines about economic contraction and job losses and the stock market tanking and international markets just not knowing what the fuck to do. Another report came out, was it this morning or yesterday? 176,000 new jobs created this past quarter, January, February, March. Oh, joy. Or week, or whatever the fuck it is. 176,000 out of a population of 350 million. Oh, yeah, that's a real accomplishment. Anyway, so the Nazi Jew showed up at the press briefing room lectern. There he stood. They have to dim the lights or else powder the top of his head, because you remember when he was painting his head to look like dark hair? I mean, give me a fucking break here. I mean, it's one thing to wear a piece. I don't have any problem. Somebody going bald wants to wear a hairpiece. Have at it. Fucking right. But to paint your chrome dome with black paint? Oh, deep breath. Anyway, as the Post reported, the Nazi Jew's appearance in the press briefing room lectern also provided a rare glimpse of his total involvement in the toilet rat's really shitty policy initiatives. So many of them are coming out of this little Nazi Jew's mouth anyway. But the Post reported that he displayed, in turn, his passion for those issues and his hatred toward the media and the left. He raised his voice and banged the lectern. He accused the media of siding with terrorists in its coverage of undocumented immigrants. He told them that they live in condos in nice areas, and he decried the, quote, cancerous, communist, woke culture that is destroying this country. End quote. Sounds like fucking Joseph Goebbels, who I think is one of this little fucker's heroes. And with his voice rising, that's how the Post put it, with his voice rising, Miller said, "This president has fought head on. He inherited an economic catastrophe." What? A border catastrophe, a public safety catastrophe, and a cultural catastrophe. This little fucker likes the word catastrophe, doesn't it? Huh? Oh, he loves it. And in every case, he has reversed those catastrophes and brought America into a new golden age. And at that point, I can just see Miller's right arm twitching because he wanted to go up into a Heil Hitler salute. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical Talk Radio Network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.